Welcome to the show, everybody. Former President Jimmy Carter has passed away at the age of 100. What a legacy. We will talk a little bit about the presidential legacy as well as the post-presidential. New York Times reporting Jimmy Carter, peacemaking president amid crises, is dead at 100. Rising from Georgia farmland to the White House, he oversaw the historic Camp David peace accords, but his one-term presidency was waylaid by troubles at home and abroad. This is a long-standing sort of perspective on Jimmy Carter, which is, his presidency wasn't really that good, but he did some good things after the fact. Very much not accurate. It's very popular from people who love to have a unique or interesting position to argue that Carter was essentially an ineffective and sort of feckless president who accomplished nothing as president, but was a nice guy and ended up doing some nice things after he was no longer president of the United States. I don't think that this is really accurate. And of course, we know about all of the post-presidency accomplishments, including working with Habitat for Humanity, working as a sort of negotiator or go-between in a number of political situations and so many other things. But our friend Bill Scher had a very good post on Blue Sky where he said, quote, "Don't buy the failed president rap on Carter. Camp David Accords, Panama Canal Treaty, created the Education Department, Energy Department, FEMA, Superfund, legalized home brewing, solved the Iran hostage crisis without bloodshed, solved years-long inflation crisis, tapped Volcker for Fed, knowing he'd hike rates. I think Bill makes a good point, and especially given that Carter only got one term. A very reasonable and sober analysis points to Carter did do a lot of great things. And yes, because he was relatively young when he was president, and he lived so many years after being president of the United States, he did also have an extraordinarily productive and impactful post-presidency period. For me, the real takeaways from Carter are less about individual political accomplishments, but more about a different model for what leadership can look like that doesn't include loud bluster. It doesn't necessarily have to play off of these stereotypes and tropes about the powerful, super tall, right? I mean, this is something about presidents and their height. Jimmy Carter, not a tall guy, sort of boisterous and loud, doing quietly, but with presence, important and significant things. And one really great thing for the legacy of Carter, of course, presidential funerals, important and sort of a final public, in many ways, event for past presidents. If Jimmy Carter had passed away not long from now, it would have been Donald Trump overseeing that presidential funeral. Instead, it's going to be President Joe Biden overseeing it, as current administrations sort of manage that to a great degree, working with the estate and the foundations of past presidents. It's a really good thing in terms of what that event would have been like, that it is Joe Biden who is going to be handling that. It would be a global humiliation to have Trump oversee it. One sort of, I don't want to call it funny because it's just so wild. Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, put out a statement about the passing of Jimmy Carter, and he sent condolences to Jimmy Carter's wife, Rosalind Carter. Of course, the only problem with that is that Rosalind Carter's been dead for over a year. And another humiliation, they can't get it right, even the simplest things. Greg Abbott putting out this statement, "Cecilia and I send our prayers and deepest condolences to First Lady Rosalind Carter and the Carter family." Of course, Rosalind Carter passed away last year at the age of 96. So there's always a faux pas. And then hours later, the statement was replaced with one that doesn't mention condolences for Rosalind Carter, like it never even happened, the way they love to do it. They just can't get through any of it without humiliating themselves. But we will remember the legacy of Jimmy Carter, especially as the presidential funeral is now in the works and will soon take place. As Trump's inauguration approaches, we're already seeing what the next 4 years are going to look like. A Trump campaign official said Pennsylvania election workers will face jail time for counting mail-in ballots with technical errors like missing dates, part of the right's attempt to sow election distrust and weaponize the courts. This story is almost exclusively being covered by right-leaning news outlets spinning the narrative to villainize the election workers, so the public probably has a skewed perspective on what's really happening. That is, unless you use ground news, which lets you see every side to every story like this one. Ground News is an independent platform that exposes the biases of media outlets by showing you who owns them, what angle they're taking on each story, and what hidden agendas might be lurking in the background. Ground News's daily briefings are a great way to stay informed without feeling overwhelmed. It gives a quick breakdown of the day's most critical stories from every angle. Go to ground.news/Pacman for 50% off their unlimited access Vantage plan. It's their biggest sale of the year, and the link is in the description.